In a stunning twist, India, a country that has long held a neutral stance on global conflicts, is now facing a serious threat of U.S. sanctions. Why? Alleged support for Russia's military-industrial complex. Could this be the beginning of a diplomatic storm that reshapes alliances worldwide? Stay tuned as we dive deep into the rising tensions between India and the U.S. and what it could mean for the global stage. Hello, I am Amanda James and welcome back to Trendwave News TV. Today, we're covering a critical development in international relations, rising tensions between India and the United States. Just recently, the USA accused India of aiding Russia's military-industrial complex, sparking fears of potential sanctions. This diplomatic standoff could have serious repercussions, not only for these two nations but for the entire world. In this report, we'll dissect the U.S. accusations, India's response, and the potential economic, political, and global consequences if this crisis escalates. By the end, you'll have a clear picture of why this conflict matters and what's at stake. Let's jump right in. What is the accusation? U.S. accuses India of supporting Russia's military. To understand the gravity of this situation, let's start with the accusations. The U.S. claims that India is allegedly supporting Russia's military-industrial complex, providing crucial resources and even sensitive technology. This support, if proven, could mean that India is helping Russia bolster its military capabilities at a time when the U.S. and much of the West are actively sanctioning Russia over the ongoing Ukraine crisis. The primary concern for the U.S. lies in the potential transfer of sensitive technology that could be used to advance Russian military projects. Washington worries that India's involvement might undermine its own efforts to limit Russia's military reach. But what's interesting is the timing. India has always maintained a neutral stance, advocating for strategic autonomy. So what triggered this sudden scrutiny? India's response by defending strategic autonomy. Let's shift to India's response. Officially, India has denied any wrongdoing, insisting that its ties with Russia are purely diplomatic and economic. India's foreign ministry emphasized that the country maintains strategic autonomy, its ability to keep balanced relations with major powers, including Russia, China, and the United States. India has asserted that its cooperation with Russia doesn't equate to support for military agendas. From their perspective, it's about securing national interests and maintaining an independent foreign policy. India also pointed out that it has maintained open dialogues with the U.S. and other global players, reinforcing its position as a non-aligned state. Diplomatically, India is working behind the scenes to de-escalate the situation and avoid sanctions. But whether these efforts will be successful remains to be seen. Let's look at the potential consequences and what could sanctions mean for India. Now, let's explore what could happen if the U.S. proceeds with sanctions. Number 1. The economic consequences for India's sanctions could mean severe trade restrictions on Indian goods and investments, particularly in high-tech sectors. If the U.S. enforces limits on exports of sensitive technology to India, it could affect sectors like defense and technology, areas in which India is working hard to modernize. Let's say India relies on the U.S. for 30% of its defense technology imports. Losing access to this technology could result in billions of dollars in losses and potentially delay several critical defense projects. Additionally, the impact could extend to tech and manufacturing sectors, costing India in terms of foreign investment and partnerships. Number 2. Geopolitical consequences in the Indo-Pacific. In the geopolitical realm, a strained relationship between the U.S. and India would undoubtedly impact the Indo-Pacific strategy. The U.S. and India have been allies in the region, working together to counterbalance China's influence. However, if tensions rise, this could weaken their united front, leaving a gap that could be exploited by other regional powers. The third thing that could happen is domestic political repercussions for India. Domestically, this situation could stir political turmoil within India. Any economic downturn caused by sanctions could trigger backlash against the government, especially if it's seen as risking relations with the West. Opposition parties might capitalize on this, leading to increased political tension within the country. Let's now look at the global implications or the ripple effects on the world stage. Let's widen the lens and consider the potential global implications. Number 1. There could be a shift in global alliances. If the U.S. sanctions India, it could signal a shift in global alliances. Countries that are currently neutral or balancing relationships with multiple superpowers might feel pressured to choose sides, which could lead to new geopolitical alignments. Imagine the Quad, the US, India, Japan, and Australia, losing India as a committed partner in Indo-Pacific security. This shift could alter the balance of power in the region, potentially giving countries like China more influence. Number 2. There could also be an impact on global trade and supply chains. Sanctions could disrupt global trade routes, particularly in the Indo-Pacific, where much of the world's trade flows. If India's economy suffers due to sanctions, it could slow down production and disrupt supply chains that are critical for many countries. For example, India is a leading supplier of generic pharmaceuticals globally. Sanctions could hinder these exports, leading to shortages and price hikes worldwide, affecting healthcare in multiple nations. Implication number 3. The broader ramifications for other nations. Other countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, which have also maintained neutral or non-aligned positions, might feel increased pressure from global superpowers to choose sides. This could destabilize traditionally neutral regions and create new areas of conflict. As we conclude this report, what's at stake? To sum up, the rising tensions between India and the US are far more than a simple diplomatic disagreement. They're a reminder of the complex web of alliances and rivalries that shape our world today. Let's recap the potential outcomes. Economic challenges for India if sanctions are enforced. A potential geopolitical shift in the Indo-Pacific region, weakening efforts to counterbalance China. Global trade disruptions that could impact sectors far beyond India and the US. Possible political fallout within India and pressure on other neutral countries to choose sides. This crisis has the power to reshape alliances, destabilize regions, and affect millions of lives through global trade and economic shifts. But the question remains, will the US follow through with sanctions? Or can India and the US find common ground before it's too late? Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think the US should sanction India over its alleged support for Russia? Or should they seek diplomatic solutions? Drop your opinions in the comments below. We want to know what you think about this intense geopolitical standoff. And if you want to stay up to date on stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Also, check the links in the description for related articles. Thanks for watching Trendwave News TV, and we'll see you in our next news report.